Hello, good evening and welcome to The Probe. Tonight we delve deep into the appointments that have been made so far under the new John Mahama Nana Opoku-Agyeman-led NDC administration and what these appointments signal for Ghana's governance trajectory. Well, the appointment of fresh leadership in key sectors is always a moment of intense scrutiny, raising critical questions like, are these appointments really driven by competence, loyalty, or political expediency? Do they actually reflect a genuine commitment to national progress, or are they more about consolidating power? As Ghana stands at a pivotal moment, grappling with economic challenges, institutional reforms, and of course, public trust in leadership, who is at the helm matters more than ever. And are the right people being placed in the right roles is also the key question. And what does this tell us about the administration's priorities and vision to reset the country? Well, tonight we dissect these questions with our expert panel, analyzing the choices made so far and what they mean for Ghana's development. First, though, a quick look at the names and the entire bigger picture so far as we have it. So as it stands now, the target is 60. And we add all things being equal. We are hoping that we stick to that promise that has been given. So total ministers to be appointed. How many have we appointed so far? As it stands now, 56 ministerial appointments have been made. And that includes deputy ministers. That's the latest list that we know about. So all that we know that is remaining is 4. All things being equal. That's what we have as it stands now. 56 ministerial appointments made so far. Then what is remaining is 4. That's what we know so far. But let's go on to it and then find out what exactly this entails to break it down a bit more for us. Out of this 56, we know that we have regional ministers, 16 of them, 27 ministers of state and deputy ministers, 13 of them. That's what it looks like. The question still remains whether it's competence, loyalty, or politics. That's something we'll be delving into as it stands now. So this is the major breakdown when it comes to the appointments so far that we know about. Now we move on and get further details of this. So ministries now that are left without deputy ministers as at now as we speak is 10. And let me give you a quick breakdown of these ministries in terms of the ministries that do not have deputy ministers in terms of appointments. Remember, we have just 4 deputy ministerial appointments to go. The Ministry of Health is without a deputy minister. We have Sports and Recreation, no ministry. We have a Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Communication, Ministry of Environment. As it stands now, no deputy ministerial appointment. And then there's more. We go on to the other 5, Ministry of Gender, Ministry of Labor, Ministry of Fisheries, Ministry of Transport, Ministry of Youth and Development, or Youth Development, I should say. No deputy ministerial appointment. So out of the 4 remaining, which of these 10 ministries will get some form of deputy ministerial appointment? So as it stands now, at least 36 appointments made to heads of state institutions. 36 of them, at least at the last count. There are still appointments being made, but that is what it looks like when it comes to heads of state institutions. Of course, you have a breakdown of them. Out of these appointments so far, I'm sure many gender advocates have begun counting in terms of how many females, how many males in there. Out of this 36 appointments made so far to the heads of state institutions, let's do a quick gender check. 5 females and 31 males. That's the 36 composition. So out of the 36 that we have 5 females, that gives us 13.88% in terms of the percentage when it comes to that gender check. Then 31 males, that's 86.11%. That's what it looks like. That's for the gender check for the state institutions. Now, appointment to the office of the president, at least 10 appointments have been made so far. 10 appointments to the office of the president. I'll come to the office of the vice president shortly. This is what it looks like in terms of the appointment. Out of this 10, 5 females, 5 males. There's an equal playing field right there, 50% each for that gender check when it comes to office of the president, 5 each. For the office of the president. Now let's go on to the office of the vice president, I guess. Let's go on if you're ready. We'll go on to the next slide. That's the appointment to the office of the vice president. 10 also made so far to the office of the vice president. Don't forget, we have a female vice president. What does it look like in terms of the appointments made so far? So that maybe I should get a bit closer to it. 10 appointments made so far also to the office of the vice president. 6 females and 4 males. 40% as against 60%. That's the office of the Vice President. 6 females, 4 females. 10 appointments also made there. Let's go on and then take a quick look at what else we have. So in all, for that gender check, if you take a look at it, the appointment type, I have ministerial appointments, 56 of them. I've taken you through them. Females, 10. Males, 46. So that gives me 17.85% as against 82.14%. That's for ministerial. For heads of state institutions, we have 36. I have 5 females, 31 males. I've given you that percentage already. Then Office of the President, 5, that's 50-50. Office of the Vice President, so far 10 appointments made, 6 as against 4. That's 60%, 40%. I'll give you a total of this as put together by the Joy Research team. So total appointments so far, including heads of state institutions, Office of the President and Office of the Vice President, and ministerial appointment, 56 of them, 4 remaining. We have 26 females as against 86 males as it stands now. So 23.21% for female appointments so far. The target we are looking at is 30%, isn't it? And then the males, we have 76.78%. That's the breakdown as it looks like as it stands now. So the total appointments so far, like I've been telling you, 23.21%, 76.78%, 26 as against 86. There was some form of key promise that was made as we finalize the bigger picture as we have it. I leave you with this. By operationalizing the Affirmative Action Act of 2024, we will ensure that women hold 30% of political appointments. That's John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana. I think it's a good time to take a quick break here on The Probe. I must remind you that my guests, expert panel for tonight, will be taking a look at the appointments made so far. I have Angela Dwamena-Aboagye, is lawyer, gender advocate, a theologian, philanthropist, and many more. We have Professor Godfred Alufa-Bokping. He's an economist and professor of finance, University of Ghana Business School. We'll also be joined via Zoom by Professor Seydou Alidu. He's the head of political science department at the University of Ghana. Ernest Nogbe is the Ashaman MP. He will join us along the line because of some agitations in his constituency as a result of some political appointments, and his constituents are hoping that his name will be in there by now. We'll also be joined by Andy Apiakubi. He's a former Asante Achim North MP. I am Emefa Apau, and this is The Probe. Please do stay with us. We're right back after the break. You're welcome back. This is The Probe live on the Joy News channel. We are on Joy 99.7 FM, myjoyonline.com. We're on DSTV channel 421, GoTV is 125. And tonight we are delving into the appointments made so far. Is it the issue of competence, loyalty, or just political? These and more are questions that we are hoping to answer tonight. And Angela Dwamena-Aboagye, lawyer and gender advocate, is my guest via Zoom. Professor Godfred Bokping, economist and professor of finance, University of Ghana Business School, also my guest via on Zoom. And then also, like I said, we'll be joined later on by Ernest Nogbe, the Ashaman MP. We'll take 1 or 2 from him and let him go. Andy Apiakubi is a former Asante Achim North MP. Will also join us via Zoom. And Professor Seydou Alidu, head of the political science department of the University of Ghana, will also join us. We'll take their quick thoughts also on all that is happening. And I can see Angela Dwamena-Aboagye and Professor Godfred Bokping ready via Zoom with us. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us here on The Probe. I would like to test your microphones at this point to be sure that we are all good to go.
Hello, MFA.
Yes, thank you very much, MFA.
It's always sweet to hear your voices. I'm glad to have you join me this evening on The Probe. So with the smile that you have on your face, Dr. Angela Dwamena-Aboagye, I would want to find out, so far, with the appointments that you've seen, I've given you a quick breakdown. I know there are more that we may not have captured in there.
Right.
Will that smile wane, or it stays that way in terms of the appointments that you've seen so far?
There's always the beginning of a thing, you know, but it's the middle of it and the end of it that matters the most. So, yes, I would say that 23% total is okay, but not all that satisfactory, because also there are levels of appointments, okay? So whether they are ministers, deputy ministers, then you have all the people going on to the state organizations, and then those at the offices of the president and the vice president, we can't say they are all at the same level, even though they are all appointments. And therefore, that's not doing too badly. It is when you come into the breakdown that you realize that when it comes to the ministers and the deputies, the gender issue comes out a bit more starkly than it does when you put it all together. So, well, it's still early days yet. There's still many more appointments to go. And we may want to find out whether, the NDC is really going to get to the 30 and even go beyond it. Because in other places, it's up to 40. And it's not just about the numbers. It's also about competent people. It's also about the fact that there are women in this world, there are men in this world, and it's a good thing if you get them both working together and contributing their knowledge, their understanding, their wisdom to policy making and all of that. You can't have just a one-sided conversation. It never works. Okay. So it is about that. It's also about not taking away what we've known as tokenism for a very long time. Throw that woman in here, throw that woman into that place, just to look good. We are not talking about the optics. We are talking about participation, about rights, and about fairness and justice. So, yes, why not?
Okay. But with the appointment itself made so far in total, you would say, a look at all the names amongst others, the key question we're asking, competence, loyalty, or just politics, really, the appointment so far, what does it tell you about the direction of this administration, you'd say?
Well, I have been impressed to some degree by some of the names that have shown up. You have somebody who is a well-known CPP activist at the presidency. You have people who have not been known to be either left or right, coming into the CEO positions. Even for some of the committees that have been set up, I've been impressed by the constitution, those that comprise these committees, okay? Because a number of them have been civil society actors. They criticize governments. I wouldn't say a government, but governments. And they have all found their way on some of these appointments. And I think that's impressive because we are really sick and tired of the winner takes it all kind of approach we have had in Ghana. It's time to chart a new path. And if these are some of the ways in which we show genuinely that we want Ghanaians to participate in Ghana's politics, then why not? It's a good path to tread. But as I said, it's early days. We still want to see more coming.
Okay. Well, let me bring in Professor Bokping on this because, of course, the females want more in there. But why not? We have a female vice president, so we need to have more female appointments. But what would you say about the general appointment? You've been assessing it so far. Do you get a sense that competence is being prioritized over loyalty and just political considerations?
Good evening, Mifa, and good evening to our cherished listeners and viewers. I think that it's a combination of all the three that you mentioned. I think that for some of the sectors, you want to understand the appointment from the perspective of the party's manifesto. So I'm starting from the party's manifesto. If you look at some of the commitments that the party has made to the people of Ghana and all of that, I think that it's just fair that they will look for someone who understands the politics of it, right? So there's the politics of development, the psyche, and all of that. So some of the appointment, you can understand it from the perspective of the manifesto, what the party seeks to achieve in the next 4 years. So for certain key ministries, really, it may not serve the government to look for completely an outsider to now come and understand where the party is coming from and to hit the ground running. And therefore, from there, you can see the politics and also the loyalty in how the manifesto came together and all of that. So you can understand that from that perspective. The other bit to also look at is the loyalty, right? Is the loyalty. You can see that also playing out here. And then, so if you look at it from that point, but like part of what I've been doing is to look at this look at Ghana in 2017, right? When we had a new government that was putting the team together. So if you look at it overall, on paper, 2017, across the key sectors of the economy or the economy, from the central bank to Ministry of Finance, Trade and Industry, and all of that. And you look at the team that the president put together from 2017 on paper, by CV, by experience, by qualification, I don't think you can come to the same conclusion with this current appointment. But of course, given the results, the outcome, then you want to give the current president the benefit of the doubt, okay, and all of that. So
How do you mean
another way.
exactly? How do you mean exactly on that point? You're saying that we had the most qualification, the most qualified persons on paper to
And
have
then also
occupied experience.
Yeah.
But
You will take the box for that of 2017. You will take the box. I mean, from the central bank to Ministry of Finance to Trade and Industry and all, you will take the box for 2017. I mean, for me, that is how I'm looking at it. But
Okay.
of course, you're also looking at the outcome, the performance, the teamwork, and all of that. So if you put all of that together, that's why I'm saying that it is only fair to give the benefit of the doubt to the current president, right?
okay.
Because it looks to me that the president is looking at probably not too many disruptors, right? He is looking at a team that he will be able to have a certain degree of influence, okay, in delivering his agenda. So they may not be that well known and all of that, right? But probably they will be more humble enough, right, to deliver on the mandate. So perhaps that's where the president is looking at it from. The other bit to also look at is that some of the appointments so far, you are looking at their specific background and experience and the portfolio that they have been handed. And then you say that probably they will need a bit more time to learn, to deliver on the job. Maybe the president has got a strategy, right, and all of that. So for some of them, perhaps a school of thought will suggest that this is not a time to go and honeymoon, right? This is a time to go there knowing exactly what you are going to do. And I'll give you a couple of things. If you look at the Ministry of Communication, digital technology, and the rest of them, okay, you can see that the MP, the minister, knows exactly what he's going to do. So from day one, and if you look at the vetting process, okay, the depth of understanding and all of that, so that tells you that, yes, the background, the experience, the exposure aligns. This is not a time to now go and pick the manifesto and read and say this. No. Then again, you can also look at certain, maybe even state-owned enterprises, right? Okay, so state-owned enterprise and certain appointments there, I would think that probably, you see, your statement to the market has more to do with the appointments you are making now, right? Okay, so the rest of them is just, okay, let's wait and see. Results may take a while. So you want to use your appointment to make a statement and a signal that will generate some kind of a confidence in the market. Already the president has some level of goodwill because you see, Emifa, in the run-up to the 2024 election, especially in November, government was struggling to meet their treasury bill auction targets. Right, confidence had gone down significantly. But right after the election, you can see that the confidence picked up over subscription and all of that. How do we sustain that? How do we consolidate that and all of that? So that is, I'm saying that some of those things, the optics, but of course, somebody may have the background, may have the qualification, but will deliver less desirable outcome. We've seen that, especially with the previous administration and all of that. So, but of course, the other bit to look at is that there's a big difference between the current president and then the one that handed over. The current president will listen, right? And he will not hesitate to make changes when it is very critical. So at the end of the day also, apart from the individuality, we're also looking at the teamwork, whether they understand where we are coming from and where we are going, and whether they will take the instructions and then also be a bit more responsive and accountable without seeing themselves as president in their own right, in their own constituencies, or in their own ministries or department or so, which makes it a bit more difficult for harmonization. We saw a bit of that under the NPP administration from 2017 to 20, let's say January 2025, and all of that. Some people felt too big. Some of them felt that they were equal, probably at the same level with the president or whatever, and all of that. All of that are perhaps the outcome. If you look at it, of course, the results of December 7 was self-explanatory.
Well, let me come to Dr. Aboagye on this, whether you are hopeful that we are going to stick with the 60 promise that we're giving in terms of the ministerial appointments. Already there's talking amongst the minority that the president should just feel free and appoint many more if he feels like doing so, and not be too fixated on, keeping that promise of 60 ministerial appointees. But from the list that you've seen, at least, let's stick with ministerial, is there a name in there or a particular ministry that surprises you the most in terms of competence against the loyalty and the politics? Are you sure that it drives us to the resetting agenda promise that we were giving?
Well, I tend to go with what Professor Bobkin is saying, that it seems to be a mix of all three.
Okay.
And these are appointments that have been carefully considered, some a bit surprising. I can't think of anybody that jumps out at me, in that sense. I mean, I'm not too surprised about Okujeto Ablakwa for foreign ministry, with the kind of role he's played in parliament as ranking, not with my friend Sam George. Okay, I'm not surprised about that. Rather, what I've been surprised about is probably some of the way in which the appointments committee has handled some of them. For example, the issue with the Greater Accra Regional Minister. No matter what the consideration, it comes out as condescending. It's like telling us she doesn't have anything to say, when we were all waiting to listen to what she has for Greater Accra. This is not just Accra, it is Greater Accra. Okay, and I'm not just talking about the size, I'm talking about the significance of this region that is going to be headed by a minister, and thankfully a female minister as well. And we wanted to hear more about her plans. For example, of sanitation. As a woman, that would be a first thing that I'll consider. One of the first things, sanitation issues, okay? Issues around the Garrett projects that we don't know where it's going. This whole thing about trying to remap Greater Accra to build in the kind of sanitation that would help, the kind of environmental structures that would help Accra with flooding and so on. And she comes and you don't ask her a thing. I mean, that was a blow for some of us. And I felt that it's this doing this for women kind of thing that doesn't help the cause. Okay, no matter what it was about, I don't get it. But I'm also impressed about the age kind of range. Okay, there seems to be a lot more younger people. They are not youth, as in what the National Youth Policy says is the age range for youth, but they are youthful. Okay, most of them are youthful, whether you take the regional ministers or the actual ministers. And that's also impressive because there's a certain attempt to bring in younger voices into the conversations around politics, which is also very, very, very helpful.
Okay.
The balancing of the regional, regional balancing, ethnic balancing. I know that the president must be having a hard time contending with all the people who want to see their people in certain positions. And already I was reading some stories about some tensions, going on within the party because some people were not appointed.
Yeah.
He has 4 years. He needs the courage, the character of integrity. He needs to demonstrate that he means business. He needs to demonstrate that that tag of incompetence that was hung around his neck, he needs to remove that.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm not surprised that he's giving us some appointments that are somewhat surprising, but not too surprising also, so that he can carry out his agenda. I think one of the things that I would stress on is the matter of policy cohesion. Okay, so you need people who know they can work in a team and are humble enough to listen to each other and support each other, because every ministry is related to the other ministry. And in Ghana, we have had situations where lack of coordination, lack of policy cohesion has really cost us more than even workers who are working and working well. Okay, so you will find a number of things that are going on at the same time in different places, in different projects across different ministries, and there's no coordination. And the policies covering them are not being cohesive enough. These things have cost us. So it's time for the president to also look at a team that can bring some coherence to policy direction in this country, so that we can cut out the waste and the losses that we had, even when people were not being corrupt.
Okay.
These things fell through the cracks because there wasn't enough policy cohesion and cohesiveness. So these are some of the things that I will bring up in my own.
Well, I'll come back to you, Dr. Jamna Boakye. Let me bring in Andy Apiakobi. Thankfully, he joins us via Zoom as well. So I've been asking Dr. Jamna Boakye and Professor Bokping, they've been speaking about the fact that whether these appointments that they've seen so far, their own assessment, I'm dying to hear from you as well on this. From what you've seen in terms of the names so far, the state institutions, ministerial appointments, CEO appointments, amongst others, does it put us on course when it comes to resetting Ghana and that promise that we're given? Do you see competence overriding loyalty and politics? What exactly are your thoughts? You would have to unmute. Hello, Ms. Apiakobi. Okay, so I'm sure he's trying to work that. Okay, perfect. We can hear you now.
Yes, thank you very much, and very good evening to your cherished listeners and my friends in the studio. So far, I'm very impressed with the appointments the president has made, particularly if you look at the background of people he has engaged. People have the requisite backgrounds, and again, his engagement of the youthful people into government is very, very impressive. So, so far, so good. I hope that these people will also do the president the honor of working hard for them. In terms of capabilities, I have no doubt that he has done it well. In terms of regional representation, yes, not too bad, but it would have been better though, because if you look at Ashanti region, for example, the size of Ashanti region and the numbers in Ashanti region versus some other smaller regions, we see that he has not been too fair to the region, for example, Greater Accra region as well. But Muntaka coming from Ashanti region and occupying a very sensitive position, a cabinet minister, well, not bad, but I would have thought that a few more would have come from the region and Greater Accra region. The Western region, haven't seen anybody, no, Central region, haven't seen anybody so far.
There's a regional minister for now, at least.
Well, there's a regional minister for every region, but I'm talking of the cabinet ministers. So on that score, I think that there is some imbalance that ought to be addressed. And believe me, this is coming because of the limit we put on the numbers by ourselves and by the president during his campaign. Personally, and I thought that if it requires that he opens up beyond the limit that he set for himself, and if that is what will give him the results, I have no qualms with that. The campaign period is different from when you are on the saddle. and when you are supposed to determine the future of the state, and the results are what we are looking for. So if you promise and cannot deliver to that limit, there's nothing wrong in changing your mind. So far, I think not bad. So far, so good.
And what you see sets us on course to reset Ghana, you would say?
Yes, like I'm saying, he has passed the competence, test,
Okay.
but we are waiting for the commitment of the appointees to justify the confidence that the president has reposed in them. You see, there's one thing about competence, ability, and another thing of your resolve to, look for results. So my prayer is that they will do the president the honor of doing what we expect of them, because I have already passed them on competence. I expect them to also work hard. So it is our collective prayer that, in fact, at the end of it, if they succeed, Ghana that would have succeeded, and all of us will share the glory. So my prayer is that they, perform to the expectation of the Ghanaian and also the president. So not bad, not bad so far.
Well, I hear you say so far so good. What would you say this new administration is doing that's different from what your administration did, for instance?
Well, I have seen that there has been a lot of consultation, even in the appointments. So that is good to be able to consult with the party members and also even members in parliament. And he has engaged a lot of colleagues in parliament. That's a good thing. And I've seen a lot of consultation before the engagement. So that's also a good thing. And I also believe that President Mahama will listen to advice and change when change is required. So I think that this is different. You remember that we, as a caucus, even impressed upon our president to change a few of our ministers, and president didn't agree with us, probably in good time. But I don't see that happening under President Mahama. So this is something that I think would be different.
Safe to say that you are for resetting and no longer an upgrade, or is it that you don't have a choice?
Well, there's always the request for an upgrade, not just a reset. Because if you reset to the same standard, then what was the justification for a change? So we are not just resetting. We expect an upgrade of the performance of the previous administration. So let's see the inflation rate come down. Let's see the city becoming stronger in the international financial market. Let's see unemployment also go down. And let's see industrialization also step up. And let's see security also be improved. And let's see our relationship, trade, and all. Let's see all of them improve. So it is not just doing what was done in the past, but doing better than that. That is the essence of the change.
Were there some specific names or appointments that you were looking at in terms of ministerial or deputy ministerial that you've not seen so far? We have just 4 to go, though. You are asking that he should increase, but as it stands now, we have just 4 to go. Were there specific names that you were looking for that you haven't seen so far? Are there any surprising appointments in there so far for you?
No, I was looking for somebody like my good old friend Adogo to find space in the government. I haven't heard of him so far, and that is disturbing. I was also looking for definite ministerial appointment for my good friend Suhini also. And
he's been appointed deputy, but you wanted him to be a substantive minister.
I wanted him to be a substantive minister. My little disappointment there. Also, I want to commend President also getting some of our women also into the government. That is also commendable. But we can have a few more ministers, also women ministers, to add to the numbers. So far, I expected President also to go across the aisle. I mean, do something that has not been done before. Go across the aisle. You remember President Kufuor appointed Dr. Pakwesi Doom as energy minister, and that was commendable. So I expect the president to also go across the aisle and pick one of our very able leaders of the House.
Like who?
That would be, well, Honorable James Abusu is unengaged now, so I would fight for him. Very experienced legislator, so he could be one of the kind to come in to join.
To occupy which office specifically, you'd say?
Parliamentary affairs. We need somebody with that kind of experience. But again, he will be championing government business. But what is wrong? He could do it. So he was somebody that I could highly recommend. And I was expecting Mr. Alan Chemati to come into the government because in trade policy, he's somebody who has a lot of experience. And in the dying members of the campaign, he was also supporting the president in his campaign. So I expected him to come in as a trade minister of the time, or a special portfolio for him to supervise some of the ministries. And I haven't seen him, I haven't heard of him at all. So Mr. Alan Chemati is still in the wings. I expect him to come into the government. From
the comfort of your home, you've appointed about you've made 4 appointments already, but we'll see how that goes.
I don't have that money.
I know.
It's accepting the president.
Yes.
No, you didn't fall for it.
I'm only just suggesting.
I know. Professor Mokwing, and then Dr.
My sister will also support me in this request.
Let's hear from her and see if she supports you, really. Dr. Jomna Bwaji is asking that there should be more than 60. We should go beyond the promise that has been made. Do you agree?
I think that is tempting the president, and he shouldn't fall for it.
Thou shalt not tempt the president.
No, don't. Okay, because this is something that many Ghanaians have held him to, and we expect him to fulfill that promise. The 60, I think, is even more than enough. And that is also to recognize that there are several other structures in our governance system that must be made to work. The ministers are first and foremost like coordinators, okay? What's the meaning of minister? A servant who helps everybody do their work and do it well. So what are we doing with all the people we've trained at the civil service and the public sector, who have the expertise, the skill, and so on to support our ministers? I don't think we need more than even 40, okay? 60 is good enough. And it's a promise, and we hope that he will hold on to it. He shouldn't fall for Mr. Andy Abiakubi's nor the NPP's. He shouldn't fall for it.
No. And let me correct you, my sister. I am speaking in my personal capacity.
Yes.
And therefore, the recommendation.
Of course, we've heard from the minority also.
I spoke about both.
The minority has been speaking about it also in Parliament, Mr. Andy Abiakubi. Yes, the minority has been speaking. It's not just you.
But is that not interesting?
Prof.
Was there a deception? The MPP in their manifesto told Ghanaians that they will be able to govern with 50 ministers.
Yes.
Were they deceiving us?
Mr. Abiakubi, you were deceiving us?
They were selling so that when they get a mandate, they will come and do what they are telling the president to do?
But Prof, sorry to intervene, but Prof, no NPP member has spoken of numbers. Myself, Abiakubi, is making this suggestion.
So that's what we are telling you, Mr. Abiakubi, that you're not the only one that has made that point. No. We've heard the leadership of the minority also mention that the president should go beyond that promise and make more appointments.
It becomes necessary to be able to achieve results. Why not?
It didn't work. Size doesn't matter.
You promised 50.
Evidence. In 2017, in 2017, the president appointed more than 100 ministers. People had reservations.
Yes.
And the president told us that their performance would justify those appointments. The result was less desirable. Let me tell you, empirical evidence exists that the size of government in Ghana affects growth negatively. So the more ministers you have, it reduces growth. If we care to know the trend now, even across Africa, is that increasingly a number of African leaders are leaning more towards lean government.
Okay.
You can look at Cote d'Ivoire, you can look at Benin, you can look at other countries. We are not even comparing ourselves to our aspirational peers and the others, and the rest of them. So really, this is more like satisfying party, whatever, and all of that. Where we are, any serious president will know that our state of finances cannot support large government size. At the central government, we are not even talking about civil society, civil servant, and all of that, across state-owned enterprises. Look, between 2017 and 2025, if you look at the growth in the staff strength of certain state enterprises, that is not sustainable. Okay, and we are creating the impression that the only way you can break even in Ghana is to join government in a certain way, because we are not creating the enabling environment for private sector to grow and offer opportunities where people can make decent living. So I think, and I still hold the view that even the 60 is too many.
Yeah.
The president should be able to gather, look, cabinet ministers, the constitution is very clear, 19 cabinet ministers. We are abusing the discretionary avenue open to us, right? And all of that has not helped us. Look, let me tell you something, we are at the position where tax revenue is no longer enough to support the operationalization of our democracy. So let's move away from that. I think that if we compare the 60 to the previous numbers that we had, it looks like 60 is commendable, but it's too many.
Well, let me keep you on the economy. We know where we've come from, we know where we are now, and we're hoping to get to a point. Let's talk about the appointment to the BOG. For instance, Dr. Isiama, there's been a lot of talk about it, and of course, the charges against him, I'm sure would not want to go into the AG filing that nolle prosequi for him. But really, do you get a sense that there will be that change that you've always been advocating for when it comes to starting with the central bank, you would say, the BOG, to start with? That kind of appointment, are you happy about Dr. Isiama's appointment?
So the more I looked at it, I'm only able to understand that appointment from the party's manifesto in terms of the things that they said they would do, the review and all of that. I think if you look at it from that perspective, then Johnson Isiama fits the bill, right? And all of that. But it's not just that. I think we should give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going into the details of all that has happened and all of that. But I think that I'll be curious to see the appointments that will be made in terms of the deputy governors, right? So they must be, it has to tickle the market. Okay. It has to tickle the market. So I'm waiting to see the two deputies. Of course, we know that the first deputy and the second deputy have all resigned and all of that. So the kind of support that he will have, and I think that he should be able to have a degree of influence, say in who supports him and all of that. So I think overall, let's not hold it against him. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Perhaps it may turn out to be good, even though one would have expected that maybe a different appointment would have been made and all of that.
But his appointment so far, would you say is tickling the market as it ought to?
I've not seen the reaction the way one would have expected. And again, I will take our mind back to 2017 with the arrival of Dr. Addison and the two deputies and all of that, and the signal to the market. Oh, but of course, we've had some time before, right? Guess what? The arrival of Dr. Polakwa during President Kufuor's time, right? And the team and all of that. So as I said, there's a strategy, right? It's also about the harmonization. It's also about how the central bank and the Isiama will work with the fiscal side under Dr. Atuforsen. Is very, very important. We didn't see that working well under the previous administration, where the monetary side was being pursued as subordinate to the fiscal side. That is not helpful. We expect that they will complement each other, because fiscal discipline is a must for effective inflation targeting and all of that. So I think that we can give him the benefit of the doubt. He will need the support. He will need a strong two deputies, one with a strong background in economics, right? It's very important. But probably towards monetary policy. But the second one must have a banking and legal exposition.
Okay.
Right? If you look at the mandate of the central bank, you need that. You need that. So I think that for now, we'll give the president the benefit of the doubt, but I think they should take another look at the two deputies and who will be going there to support so that they consolidate the confidence and the market can react positively. Bear in mind, we are looking at towards the end of this year, probably reopening the bond market and all of that. You need confidence. Okay. You need confidence. And a lot of that will also come from the people you put in the front line and all of that. Yeah.
Well, Dr. John Ambaje, we've been very hard on the fight against Galamsey, for instance. As part of the parties or the government, 120-day contract at least, when that document was released, a number of things we've been tracking so far as Joy News. Of course, the fight against Galamsey is in there. Appointments have been fulfilled amongst others. Committees have been formed. They were all in that contract. Are you satisfied with the actions taken so far, immediate action, early days yet, many will say, when it comes to especially the fight against Galamsey? I don't know if you have other expectations also in certain areas that you are seeing some level of work being done that satisfies you.
Well, the first thing is that I see that when it comes to the 120 days contract, that the president put out for Ghanaians, he appears to be, working quite well with it, forming all the committees and so on and so forth. And so, again, early days, beginning of things, so we need to keep watching. But I don't see the vigorousness that is needed to tackle the Galamsey issue with the strength and temerity that is needed. I don't feel it yet.
Okay.
So maybe there's some thinking going on around it, and we need to be patient to listen to the strategy that this government is going to bring to bear on the Galamsey fight. So far, I'm hearing regional ministers commenting about how they're going to make sure that the mining that will be done, one, is legal and done in a sustainable way. These are all like little conversations. But the Galamsey issue is such that it needs a huge conversation, but not just a conversation of strategy that moves us to the next level to reclaim our rivers and our lands. Okay. And I don't think this, little way you hear one comment here, you hear one comment there, that's the kind of thing that some of us are looking for. We are truly looking for a national strategy, a coordinated, multi-sectoral strategy, and an action person leading it, okay, so that we really reclaim our land and our rivers back.
Okay.
But something that I also wanted to add about the appointments, okay, now we don't only have the national level in Ghana, we have the local government level, and that is where governance is actually supposed to happen, where we go in by the constitution and our vision for decentralization. That is also something that we are really keenly looking at. One is about what is going to happen when it comes to election of MMDCs and so on. Is the conversation on the burner, or it has been put to the back burner? Because frankly, we should stop being hypocritical. I'll say it again. The second thing is that at that level of appointments, you would realize that when it comes to inclusion, for example, of women, the conversation is not very strong. So far, if you look at the criteria that was put out by the NDC for generating the MMDCs, okay, you would find that it might eliminate women almost immediately. Not because we want to give them a soft hand, but because we must be conscious of the cultural conditioning and the structures that limits them. if you are looking for party cards, you are looking for people who are actively involved in party politics at that level, you're likely not to find a lot of women, not because they don't want to do it, but because of the limitations that society puts on them. So we need to go beyond the criteria that was given. Otherwise, we are going to have an extremely lopsided local governance structure. The districts, at the district levels. You'd also see the same for the appointees, the 30% appointment. If I look at the criteria again, it might become very limiting for women. That has been put out by the NDC. And by the way, I don't even know when parties started putting out, some of these criteria, because it was supposed to be non-partisan, but that's another conversation. Okay. So yes, those limitations may throw a lot of capable women out of there. So we need to look at that. Last thing I'll say has to do with the Council of State appointments. I know a lot of people are not happy with that, the Council of State, for whatever reason it is, but we have not yet chucked it out. It is still there.
Yeah.
And so far, I even hear that the people who have put their names out
for
of
elections,
how big, I can't remember, there are only 11 women there. And I'm saying it's not for want of capable women. It is for understanding the conditioning that limits women and being able to do the things for which we passed the Affirmative Action Act. Okay, so these are some of the things that I would say, not to talk about even persons with disability and so on and so, who may not be actively participating in the political fronts for the very same reasons. And so these are things we need to become more sensitive to. I know President Mahama is doing his bit, but it doesn't mean that the party would also be thinking, exactly along the same lines with all the different interests that are going on there. So we need to look out for that. Yeah.
Well, Ms. Andy Apiakubi, in wrapping up with you also on this, really, I would want to find out your key immediate actions that you're hoping to see, and then possibly maybe your marching orders for the appointees as this government takes off, you'd say.
One of the issues my sister just closed on is the Galamsey problem. I expect that we put a stop to the illegal mining. Indeed, it was one of the things that I was very interested in, to ensure that the environment is protected to the health. Indeed, I want to see this government tackle the problem of illegal mining. I would expect that we could put a hold generally onto small-scale mining, get them to pre-qualify and give them more orientation, let them come with various mining contracts and mining strategies, and more importantly, the environmental plans to recover the mining sites, and also make sure that we do it scientifically without recourse to destroying the environment, and particularly our water bodies. So I want the government to focus on that and give us results there. Also, this new era of global warming, I expect the government to pay attention there, and whatever inflow of resources from world bodies, we must apply them appropriately to redeem our forests, to contribute to the problem of environmental recovery.
Okay.
So,
well, we'll leave it here for now. Professor Bokping, my apologies. I know that this is a discussion that we'll be having going forward. We're really out of time on this. I didn't even know where the time went, but I'm truly grateful for your company this evening. Dr. Angela Dramina-Boaji, Mr. Andy Apiakubi, and of course, Professor Godfred Bokping. We're grateful for your time. We've been assessing the appointments made so far under the John Mahama, Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman-led administration. So far, is it the issues of competence, politics, or loyalty? And there's been some great assessment here on The Probe. Another time will come your way again, same time on Sunday. On behalf of the entire team, many thanks for your company. I am MFA Apau. Have a good evening.